What colour is Ban's hair? Dark, almost black. Stovers said, what were the orcs doing on the ice world in Ghostmaker when every single other battle was against cultists and rebels? That's a very good question. That was a very, very early story, and at that point I hadn't decided that it was just going to be such a one-track thing in terms of Gaunt's Ghosts. So I had them fighting orcs for a change, because I thought there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't come across a pocket of orcs, as it were. Since then, the backstory of the thing has become so significant, and it's so much about the Chaos campaign. That's absolutely what it's about now, and there's huge variety in that Chaos thing. What were the orcs doing? They were just there. They just run across them, and they had to be dealt with. Why do Vervenhivers and Belladon so easily accept being part of the Tanith verse when the Tanith are now a small minority? I don't know. I feel in my head that they have integrated well in terms of characters. There's still some different rivalry there. I think they respect the tradition of the Tanith and what the Tanith have achieved by themselves, and then with the Vervenhivers, and then the Belladon themselves have respect. I don't know. I might think about that a little further and see if there's anything that I need to do with it. Stovers also asks, when will Merrin die? At the dramatically appropriate moment. Andrew Sparks says, I really enjoyed reading about Mert's struggle with his bionic jaw and him and Dallin fighting together. Will you be planning on more Mert action, and will he ever get his aim back? Maybe you could get his aim back that is slightly worse than Larkin's and the rivalry starts up. That's a nice idea. Mert's certainly a character who's going to stay around now, and we will see more of him in the next few books. Characters sort of fade in and out depending on how important they are to the particular plotline. But Mert's definitely there. He appears in Blood Pact with Dallin, funnily enough. So yes, more from him. Like the idea of the rivalry. Let's see what we do with that. Blitzspear. You've been reading Nemesis the Warlock. Blitzspear said, hi Dan, will there be any standalone books involving Bryn Milo and Saint Sabbat, or will you be reintroducing them to the Gaunt's Ghost novels? I think the latter is more likely. I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do with that, but that's not a storyline I tend to forget about. Obviously it's quite important. I think it's one of those ones that drifts away and then will come back again in some important way. I've got some ideas where it will fit back in. I think it's more likely it will be in the Gaunt books rather than in a Bryn Milo and Saint Sabbat spin-off. Boom said, in the first Gaunt's Ghost book you had Gaunt having flashbacks to his youth which pertained with the storyline. Why did you abandon this plot device, and is there any chance we will be seeing a young Gaunt Hyrcan Regiment spin-off? I abandoned it because that was what I did in the first book. It was filling in the background of his early life, and not in any great detail, but the key points, and telling the backstory about his father and the people who had been father figures to him, which was the nature of that book. It wasn't appropriate to do that in other books, although I do reference back to Gaunt's childhood and youth. The new book, funnily enough, Blood Pact, which is out in October, does have a strong connection to that first book in terms of reference in the past, so look out for that. I definitely would love to do a young Gaunt Hyrcan Regiment spin-off. I imagined that it would be possibly one, possibly two, or possibly even a trilogy of prequels, so that these books would fit into the Gaunt Ghost series. At the beginning they'd be the new books 1, 2 and 3. I wanted to call the first one The Hyrcan Boy. And they'd be great fun to do, particularly because the Hyrcans are a great regiment that we've never seen, and there's an opportunity, going back to an earlier question, for having Gaunt and the soldiers with him fight people other than Chaos. It'd be great to see them fighting, I don't know, Tyranids or Orcs or whatever. By the way, so that's an ongoing long-term plan to get around to doing that sometime, like add to the list with all the other things. But that project is referred to in Black Library circles as Lil Gaunt. So Lil Gaunt may show up at some point. Boom also says, and what are your thoughts on a Warhammer 40k visual medium idea movies? Do you think such an endeavour has yet? Why do you think such an endeavour has yet to be attempted? I think it's a brilliant idea. I think in the right way it could be done extremely well. I write books. Why did you decide for so many ghosts to die and only in death? There are hardly any left. Will the next ghost story arc be the last? I don't think it will be the last. Blood Pact is the start of a 4-book story called The Victory. It will certainly be a very major storyline, and it may well be that all that needs to happen after that is a sort of book or two that are tying up loose ends and epilogues. But I think there's probably more life in it yet than we suppose, because I've got got loads of ideas. But it's just one of those things. I take it steadily, see where we get to, see what I feel like when I get there. Like, you know, is it another mountain that's too far to climb, or shall I keep going? But I always said I'd keep going all the way I had stories. Alex said, I'm one of the few proud owners of your Sabbath Wells Crusade background book. Are there plans for a second book covering the next chapter of the Crusade? It was always the plan. I don't know if that's still in print anymore. For those of you who didn't know it even existed, you should petition Black Library to republish it if it's not in print. It's a great little book. Covers everything up to... around about, I think, Traitor General, round about there. But it's the whole campaign. It's not Ghost-centric at all. It tells you all about Slido and how Makaroth took over and where the war started and all sorts of different things. Great maps and funniness. And I wrote it. It wasn't just, you know, something cobbled together by somebody trying to work out fill in the gaps between my books. Would you ever consider killing Gaunt off? I do on a regular basis consider killing Gaunt off. How many more story arcs would you consider doing for the Gaunt's Ghost series? As I said earlier, there's at least one more. I'm imagining probably 2. Who knows? If we count the little Gaunt, then at least 3. Willard Foxton said, was the mention of the Resistance's problems with mind switchers, face changes in the armour of Contempt something you intend to come back to, particularly in the light of Dalian Creed's run-in with the Sons of Sek? Yes, I think that's a probably safe bet to say that that's a subject that will get revisited. When you describe coming back to Gaunt, would you ever write the founding, fall and evacuation of Tanith itself? Yes, I have, in the first book, perhaps not in big enough detail, but the very first story in Ghostmaker recounts that. Willard Foxton again said, none of the Ghost book have particularly inspiring covers. They usually have a theme of unidentifiable dirty guardsmen in cloaks or interchangeable commissar. It is a shame, as the books have lots of inspiring scenes, perhaps. For example, I'd like to see a really good artist draw the drop on Fantine. If you could pick an artist to draw a comic adaptation of one of the Gaunt novels, who would it be? I'm an S.B. Davis fan, personally. Yes, Simon's a fantastic artist. He'd certainly get the characters. He'd certainly get the characters brilliantly. Who else would I pick for that kind of stuff? If we're talking real sort of fantasy comic artist league, to go for somebody like Jeff Darrow, who does that wholesale, huge scale action stuff so amazingly, with such amazing detail. I don't know. I think any good artist should be able to make a great go of that, because it's a very vivid visual thing to draw, isn't it? Duke Leto said, I have to agree with Willard, there's not a good cover with the possible exception of Traitor General. I was wondering how much input Dan gets into choosing the cover art, specifically recovering the drop on Fantine. I often make suggestions about what I think should be on the cover in terms of components, who the characters are. The cover decisions are made editorially. There are several of the character covers I've really liked, actually. I don't think there's one of them that I in any way despise. I particularly like Clint Langley's covers for the omnibus editions. I like those very much. Maybe people need to write about that on the message boards rather than ask me about it and make suggestions. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the 9 pages of questions that everyone was kind enough to send me. So thank you very much. I hope I've answered everything. If I've missed you off, I do apologise. It was not my intention, and if I've not answered your question fully enough, again I apologise. This isn't the last time we're going to do this. There will be more opportunities for questions and more opportunities for me to sit and talk at you. And who knows, at some point I might sit down here with the first chapter of Triumph and actually read you a bedtime story. How does that sound? Alright, thank you very much. See you soon.